Hi guys, it's Alan. They did allow it. Thank you. That's one thing I can hear with the V2K saying that you don't know who you are. It's kind of like they're trying to say that you're a spiritual or a prophet or, and who wouldn't want to be? I would love it. It'd be great. But I'm just honest if I, it'd be great if I, would accept it in a second. It's just well, the thing that happens, and I have to TENS unit, for people who don't understand what a implantable ELF, it's like having an implanted TENS unit that is very low frequency, but it's constantly going off in your side. And that extremely low frequency of an electronic charge is constantly going at a very low hertz. And what happens is that it has a tendency, in the right place, it has a tendency to block a lot of your emotions. And the only thing you really feel is that little, but it's low, but it blocks your emotions, your feelings. And they're trying to see, it creates a depression. This is something that our government in Neuro Rights, a lot of the people that are well known for Dr. James Giordano, books that have been written by John Marino. He's a bioethicist trying to understand and do stuff on neuro rights and slow kill. I think Philip Nielsen has a book, same last name as me, but no relation to my, he talks about this slow kill or soft kill. And it's where they use a type of technology over a long haul to see the effects of radiation on the body. They've been doing this way before MK Ultra, the radium girls with oatmeal in the 30s and 40s. This fascination of using radiation on the human heart, the mind, the body, the skin. Even when China did it to the prisoners of war, it paid money to find out the information. Like they had this interest. Even after Sidney Gottlieb during MK Ultra, where he tried to burn up the notes and the information, but he forgot a few hundreds or thousands of papers that forgot to get burned. And that's what started the Church Commission, looking at the CIA and trying to stop the abuses of what the CIA and the medical stuff that at the time, the NIH, that what they use medicine for, and how medicine and drugs affect the brain, the heart, the nervous system, our personalities. They can use this information for a great purpose, like Elon Musk is helping with people who are injured, which is wonderful, but sometimes our defense departments and intelligence departments has a tendency to see just out of human curiosity, they give government grants out to universities, academics, to see what torture does. And using wireless technology, the internet, to use the internet and mind reading technology. Like Stephen Hawking could use his mind. He could, and the brain, the chip could read it and put his thoughts on a computer, and that's how he could communicate. So it could be a wonderful thing. But the ability to read the mind, there goes your Fourth Amendment, search and seizure. The Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, don't be a testimony or a witness against yourself. The Eighth Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment or torture. I'm amazed, coming from a religious conservative hometown, who I thought was good people. I always thought, I thought the police were good. I thought, teachers. I thought they were all pretty good. Police and sheriffs and probably the hospital, city hall, and it just. But I had this side pain ever since I was after 14, after I broke my arm, and it wouldn't, just wasn't going away, and didn't know. And again, if you watched my videos, you know what happened. It just kept on, and nobody. You're just praying, God, tell me what it is. Tell the doctor what it is. For 30 years, not knowing what it was. It wasn't until Ella Free and Dr. Matt Arnegard that I was able to realize, oh, this is on purpose. This is a direct. It's an implanted, implantable. That's what they call it. The technical term is an implantable, like a pacemaker, but it's for any medical device that they can implant in the body, whether a pacemaker or a knee. They're implantables. That's what their technical term is. But they do this, and they've been doing, even in Elon Musk, it's in the news, is using a chip in the head. But they do it in a negative way too, for negative purposes. And I was never asked, nobody did, especially at the age of 14, after a football practice, and I broke my arm. But I wouldn't, as much as before I had like you want to, give somebody after you die. But now I don't want anybody taking anything from me, anything. They did this to me while I'm alive. And I don't want them using my brain or my neural rights, my brain waves, my thoughts, my emotions to download it. I don't care if they think they're going to try to give me immortality that way. I would rather just die and be with the Lord, but even then, it just knowing that this came from a very conservative religious town, I don't think I would, they did this to me my entire life since I was 14. I don't want to go to heaven with these people. If they think they're going there, because they literally are making a new torture chamber for people in this world. They're trying to perfect a technology for cruelty. Some of it for goodness, but some of it just for cruelty. And I don't want any of this. I never did. I would never have agreed to it. And I am amazed at these bioethics groups. I mean, I know they get paid for this stuff, but don't you have enough money? Can't you just put the brakes on our military to not do this? I can understand if somebody is evil and has been evil to other people their entire life, but even then, just using people, human beings, as guinea pigs, and taking people who've been very nice their entire life and using them just to see if you can twist them into like the Unabomber. They did that to him when he was 16 to see what would happen to him, and then he became the Unabomber. He went to Harvard. He was a brilliant guy. There was a professor named Murray at Harvard that was a psychologist and a very eminent in his field in psychologist. And him and some other people started administering drugs and LSD to the students there. And one of those students was the Unabomber. When he was 16, and maybe he might have signed like he wanted, okay, he'll get extra credit, but who would sign up for torture? Who was going to sign up for, anyway, I certainly wouldn't. And when you have V2K, it's just literally, if they can take a little chip or a little antenna or a plasma antenna, that's a new thing now, using a gas, just like a plasma antenna, and using that as a receiver and to receive and to send out and receive information. And that includes being able to hear audio, very silent audio. Sounds like a contradiction in terms, I think the Navy had it, Medusa, using silent, see, I forget how the med part of Medusa is, but the USA is using silent audio. It goes bypasses the ear, and it's just something that they can very slightly, but you can hear it. That's all I can say. But when you hear it, you also know that's something that your neighbor or somebody right next to you couldn't hear. It's just very simple. But you can hear it clear as day too. But it's a different type of audio, and it's hard to explain. But it'd be hard to believe unless you experience it. It's like an episode where Dr. Nick Begich was showing William Shatner on his show how he could bypass the ears and allow somebody, like almost like a neurophone, where they put electrodes through the cheek or bone conduction, and sound travels through the skin of the cheeks or the temples, and people can hear that way. But that's what it is. And anyway, it's I encourage people to watch out. They will use religious people who are very kind and merciful, just kind and good, and will try to introduce through very low, before it becomes audible, through V2K voice to skull. I wonder if they spend years priming a teenager or an adult, weakening their psychological makeup, making their like using subliminal like a type of personality, turning the other cheek, using religious beliefs of that person and trying to reduce them to just this moralistic, maybe even masochistic, like anti-self, anti-pleasure. It's like in the book of, I think it was Revelations, where in the last days will be lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. Like, if you're into loving God, then you shouldn't love pleasure, or, kind of like the first century of the Christian church, where there had all these masochists that were whipping themselves on the back with chains and, doing some type of penance for having a lustful thought or something. Anyway, this technology has the ability to, because of this, it wipes out your emotion. Now, the great thing is, about 12 or 13 times I've had them turn it off, just literally that quick, like zoop. And then my emotions right here on my side instantly came right back. Instantly. Not 10 minutes later, but literally within 2 to 3 seconds, just 2 seconds, just zoop. And it's like it's like it's like years not being able to feel, and there's something going on here, but you don't know what it is. You don't know how to explain it. Just that it hurts. But then you'd meditate for hours or pray, and then, sometimes you could alleviate a little of it, and some of it, like in a lot of these target individual conferences, they'll say, well, you got to keep your frequencies up. It's like, well, I've had good times and bad. I've had concentrate on good thoughts and all that. And sometimes nothing. It's just they can turn it off and turn it on just like that. It's not a slave to your positive thinking. I wish, but I've had positive thoughts. Like, I have always known myself to be an extremely, just a kind, good person. I can still feel guilt. But I've always been kind and good. And I thought the people in my town were pretty nice and good people too. So there I am having positive thoughts and frequencies, but it didn't do anything for this. I literally was kind to pretty much everybody, but that didn't eradicate this. I think they're telling people in the small towns like Dallas or where other TIs are, that we're trying to help the person. We're trying to bring them closer to God, bring them closer to the Lord, help them become more positive. I can hear the V2K now. It's like they're telling those people a different story. Like they're trying to help the target individuals to become more positive, more higher performance. And it's not they probably could help somebody, but that's not their purpose because I was a hard worker. I spent 8 years working 2 full-time jobs during this. I had pain meds and I was thankful for it, but I was able to work 2 full-time jobs for 8 years. And then one of the places closed down. So I had to go back to one. But I think they tell the people in Dallas or Salem, that they're trying to help me or, help other TIs by making them more positive or helping them find their religious identity or something. It's like, no, they just keep on doing the little ELF, extremely low frequency, this torture thing. And then now doing the neuro strike, if that's the right term for it, is sending little shock waves and zaps throughout your body, painful zaps, and then instantly can put an extreme amount of anxiety in you. And if that happens, it's scary. I would encourage somebody just to get an ice pack and put it on their temples or the back of your neck. I spent most of my life not really having too much, just normal stresses, but not anxiety like that. And then it just hits you. And if that does, I would encourage somebody just to get an ice pack, have one near you, get about 4 or 5 of them and have them in your freezer, and then just go outside, have a cigarette, or then, just the fresh air, get some fresh air. And I'm amazed. It's like the people in your hometown, maybe they just are blinded by the extra money and the non-disclosure agreements. Yeah, we're going to use the person in your town like they're not even good enough to be called an animal or a dog or a cat, because even dogs and cats have people for the ethical treatment of animals. I'm a human being that studied for the ministry and has always never gotten problems with anybody and no enemies, and yet they still did this to me for over 37 years now. I had a wonderful, pretty good people. I thought people in Dallas were pretty nice, pretty good people, except I had that constant chronic pain, and I didn't know it was intentional. It wasn't until I was 30, not I was 30, but after 30 years, I was 30 years of having this same, I was about 45 years old. And then on the computer and on TV, there's Havana syndrome. Like, that sounds like the same thing. And I was getting that high-pitched sound, not crickets. It's not crickets. And then this weird, I didn't know there was a name for it, but it's V2K. And when you hear it, it's just somebody messing with you. But what they're hoping is that you go to somebody and tell them, hey, I'm hearing these people talk, but I don't see anybody. It's like hearing voices, because they've been trained, most people through TV and movies, you hear, or psychologists even, if they hear voices, well, that's an instant. And it's like they don't know about psychotronics or that our military and sometimes police now use that type of technology, psychotronics, to kind of do a ventriloquist game where they can electronically send sounds and even voices, kind of like Havana syndrome, hearing crickets or hearing a message, and then that high-pitched sound. And then when a person goes and talks to a doctor or goes to a psychologist or somebody, and yeah, I hear these people talking to me and voices, and then instantly it's like, oh, it belittles that person in the mind of, write it on their insurance card or on their insurance. Oh, they're hearing voice. It's like, no, it's not that kind of hearing voices. And they actually are trying to create a depression. It's kind of like people have always lost spouses and lost their parents or kids, difficult times for people. But it wasn't until 1990 in Japan that these women, these widows, suddenly were getting broken heart syndrome. There's this, it's called Kobayashi or something else, Kobayashi syndrome or some weird name like that. But it's broken heart syndrome, where under the heart, they get hit in the heart with the same type of Havana syndrome, and it causes this side pain this chronic side pain that can come on, and and normally follows the death or a traumatic event, something painful and sad. And so and didn't get diagnosed officially until like 1990. And I think it's just our military using this to mess with people, and normally widows. And then the widow then, it's diagnosed with broken heart syndrome. Well, people have always had these issues of somebody passing or a traumatic event, and then it hits them in the heart, and then zap, and then this constant painful depression. And that's what I'm talking. It's Havana syndrome. It's target individuals, but they're calling it, Kobayashi or Tobiashi syndrome with broken heart. And it's just literally, it's the same exact thing as being hit in the heart with these directed energy weapons or implants. And then suddenly that person can now be forced to go to a doctor and buy medicine that they would not normally need. They're just experimenting on people to see what they can get away with. And who knows how many other things. They can get a physical pain, kind of like the vaccine thing. They created a new super sickness. They haven't done the common cold yet, even fix that, but they're creating, this new super sickness, Dr. Fauci, and told, don't do this gain of function thing. And they did it anyway. And so now everybody had to take a vaccine for an illness and a sickness that didn't even exist. They're acting like they're trying to get ahead of the game. And they're going to prepare by, creating monsters and then creating to have a vaccine for those monsters. So they're inventing monsters that don't exist so that they can have, it's like Superman and having his, whatever it's called, that, it's like creating Dracula so you can have, and then inventing a crucifix to fight. How about just don't make the Dracula in the first place? You don't have to make a silver bullet. Don't make a werewolf. If you don't make a werewolf, you won't need the silver bullet. If you don't make a new sickness, you don't need to make a new vaccine. But they create it and then have to make a vaccine and then get rich off it. That is where we're at now in our Purdue Pharma, and not Purdue. Well, I guess that's one of them too. So anyway, I hope engineers in our government, please, for me, it's over 37 years now. I hope bioethics and some engineers will please come through. And I spent 30 years not knowing what it was, just praying and believing that God will help me. And at least he did show me what it really was. And I hope he'll heal it. But it made me realize most of my town and the people are kind of conservative, religious, and they went along with it. Non-disclosure agreements, I'm sure, got paid hefty money, but they went along with it. And so much for Drain the Swamp. So it makes you look at those people in a different light when this happens to you, and you realize that they did this intentionally and on purpose and got paid to do it and to keep quiet. Now, if it's on CNN or in government, if a politician did something half or a tenth as bad as this, torture for money, if they're just sleeping around or taking a bribe, then they'd be wagging their finger. But this is torturing innocent people for money. Innocent people who never hurt them or anybody else, and they're getting money for it. And don't tell anybody. We want him to die before he finds out or she finds out. So anyway, that's where we're at. And I hope that somebody, I emailed my senators letters, but I don't know, somebody answers, but I don't know if it's the actual, of those people, or if it's the Fusion Center pretending to be, directing my calls elsewhere. So anyway, for other TIs, I'm glad that there are the groups that help TIs out there. So let's be thankful for that. And I'm thankful that I finally have the knowledge. If you are in the same situation, I would encourage a very strong magnet, neodymium magnets. And again, the the packs, and then try if there are radio frequency jammers. They're illegal, but I think those are the things that do it. That's the thing they implant. It might be illegal, but it's better to be tortured to death, and then you get arrested, and then you can present your case. I'm thinking about, I don't know. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys later, okay?